The shuttle docked with a soft hum, and Park Min-yu took his first step onto the galactic research vessel Endless Horizon. He carried one bag over his shoulder and held a small metal container close to his chest. The container held something precious, something his mother had packed for him before he left Earth. He would save it for later. The docking bay was large and clean. Bright lights filled every corner and the air smelled like nothing at all. It was too clean, too empty of scent. Min-yu already missed the smell of Earth, the smell of rain on concrete, of food cooking in street stalls, of grass after it was cut. But he smiled anyway. This was his dream. He was the first human to serve on this ship, and he would make it count. A tall figure walked toward him. The alien stood almost 7 feet high, with skin that shone like polished silver. 4 thin antennae rose from the top of his head, moving slowly like grass in a gentle wind. His eyes were large and dark blue, and they studied Min-yu with careful attention. "Human Park Min-yu," the alien said. His voice was smooth, and a small device on his chest translated his words into English. "I am captain of the people. Welcome to the Endless Horizon." Min-yu bowed his head slightly. "Thank you, Captain. I am honored to be here." His antennae twitched. Min-yu did not know what that meant, but the captain's face remained calm. "We have prepared quarters for you. Our medical team has studied human biology. We have adjusted the temperature, the air mixture, and the lighting to match your needs." "I appreciate that," Min-yu said. "It is necessary," replied. "Your species comes from a Class 7 death world. We must ensure your environment does not harm the other crew members." Min-yu blinked. "Death world." "Earth," said, as if the word itself was dangerous. "High gravity, extreme temperature changes, an atmosphere filled with corrosive oxygen, native life forms that include apex predators, venomous creatures, and organisms that cause disease. Your planet is classified as one of the most hostile environments in the known galaxy." Min-yu did not know what to say. To him, Earth was just home. He had grown up in a small apartment in Seoul. He had gone to school, played games with friends, eaten his mother's cooking. Earth did not feel like a death world. It felt normal. "We have parks," Min-yu said, "and beaches and coffee shops." Stared at him. His antennae went very still. "Yes," he said slowly. "We have read about your coffee, a liquid made from roasted seeds that contains a chemical toxic to many species. You drink it every morning. It helps me wake up. It would kill I in minutes." Min-yu decided not to mention that he also enjoyed spicy food. Led him through the ship. The corridors were wide and bright with smooth walls that curved gently. Other crew members passed by and each one looked at Min-yu with open curiosity. He saw creatures of many shapes. Some were tall and thin. Some were short and round. Some had wings. Some had too many eyes. All of them watched him as if he were a strange animal in a zoo. "The crew is nervous," admitted. "They have never served with a human before. Your species has a certain reputation." "What kind of reputation?" "You are endurance predators," said. "Your ancestors hunted by chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. You can run for hours without stopping. You heal from wounds that would kill other species. You eat the flesh of other creatures, sometimes raw. You form emotional bonds with dangerous animals and keep them in your homes." "You mean pets?" "You call them pets, we call it insanity." Min-yu laughed. He could not help it. The sound surprised whose antennae rose high in alarm. "Do not worry," Min-yu said. "I am not dangerous, I am just an engineer. I fix machines. I solve problems. I am very boring." Did not look convinced, but he continued the tour. He showed Min-yu the engine room, the medical bay, the research labs, and the observation deck. The ship was beautiful. Through the wide windows, Min-yu could see stars stretching into forever. He had dreamed of this since he was a child, and now he was here. Finally, brought him to the communal dining hall. It was a large room with many tables and chairs designed for different body types. A few crew members sat eating meals that looked like colored paste or carefully arranged pills. "You will take your meals here," said. "The food synthesizer can produce nutrition suitable for humans. It will not taste like your Earth food, but it will keep you alive." Minyu nodded, but his hand moved to the metal container in his bag. He thought of his mother standing in the kitchen the night before he left. She had packed the container with care, sealing it 3 times to keep everything fresh. "Take this," she had said. "Space food will not be enough. You need real food, food from home." He had promised to save it for a special day. "I understand," Minyu told. The captain's antennae relaxed slightly. "Good. The crew will grow accustomed to you in time. You seem calm perhaps the reports exaggerated." "Perhaps," Minyu said with a small smile. Over the next several days, Minyu worked hard to fit in. He learned the ship systems quickly. He fixed a broken air filter in the lower deck. He helped a young engineer named repair a damaged power conduit, had beautiful wings that shimmered with rainbow colors, and she was kind enough to explain the ship's technology to him. "You are not so scary," said one day. "The others said humans were monsters, but you seem nice." "Thank you," Minyu said. "I try." "Just do not do anything strange," added. "They have very sensitive senses. They can smell things from very far away, and they are even worse. Loud noises and strong smells make them sick." "I will be careful," Minyu promised. He meant it. He really did. He wanted to be a good crew member. He wanted to prove that humans could work well with other species. He wanted to show that Earth was not as scary as everyone believed. But on day 12 of the mission cycle, Park Minyu made a mistake. The morning of day 12 began like any other. Minyu woke up in his small room, stretched his arms, and looked out the window at the endless stars. He had slept well. The ship was quiet and peaceful. Everything felt good. He showered, dressed in his work uniform, and checked his schedule. Today was a light day. He had only a few small repairs to complete, and most of his tasks were finished by midday. His stomach growled. The ship's food synthesizer made meals that were healthy but had no taste. Every meal was the same: bland paste, nutrition cubes, flavorless protein drinks. It kept him alive, but it did not make him happy. He looked at the metal container sitting on his shelf, his mother's gift. He had been saving it for 12 days now, waiting for the right moment. Today felt like that moment. He was hungry for something real, something from home. Minyu picked up the container. It was heavy in his hands. The metal was cold and smooth. 3 magnetic seals kept the lid closed tight. His mother had explained that the seals would keep everything fresh, would lock in the flavor and the smell until he was ready to eat. "When you feel lonely," she had said, "open this. It will remind you of home." He was not lonely, not exactly, but he missed certain things. He missed the sound of rain on windows. He missed walking through busy streets. He missed sitting at the kitchen table while his mother cooked. Most of all, he missed the food. Real food. Food with flavor and heat and history. He put the container in his bag and walked to the communal dining hall. The room was busy when he arrived. 6 other crew members sat at different tables, eating their meals in silence. Minyu recognized most of them. 2 officers sat near the window, their silver skin glowing under the bright lights. Their antennae moved slowly as they chewed their food. Captain sat alone at a corner table, reading reports on a small screen. Near the center of the room, the engineer ate something that looked like blue jelly. Her wings folded neatly behind her back. She saw Minyu enter and waved a small hand in greeting. Minyu waved back. 3 analysts sat together at a long table. They were strange creatures. They had no solid shape. Their bodies were pale and soft, like living clouds. They could change their form slightly, growing taller or shorter depending on their mood. Right now they were calm, their bodies round and still. Minyu walked to his usual table in the far corner. He sat down and placed his bag on the floor beside him. For a moment he just sat there, looking around the room. Everyone was eating peacefully. The air was clean and quiet. Soft music played from hidden speakers. He reached into his bag and pulled out the metal container. Noticed first her wings twitched. "Minu," she called out, "what is that?" "Lunch," Minu said. He smiled. "My mother packed it for me before I left Earth. I have been saving it." His large eyes blinked. "Why is it sealed like that? It looks like a containment unit for dangerous materials." "It keeps the food fresh," Minu explained. "Keeps the smell inside until I am ready to eat." The word smell moved through the room like a cold wind. The two officers stopped eating. Their antennae rose high on their heads, pointing toward Minu. Captain looked up from his reports. Even the three turned their soft bodies in his direction. "Smell," repeated the younger officer. He was the science officer, curious by nature, but right now his face showed worry. "What kind of smell?" Minu shrugged. "It is just food, traditional food from my home country. My mother makes it herself." "Human food," said slowly. He set down his data screen. "Human food has a reputation, Minu." "What kind of reputation?" His antennae folded back slightly. "We have studied your species' eating habits. You consume plant matter that has been allowed to rot in controlled conditions. You eat the muscle tissue of dead animals, sometimes cooked over open fire, sometimes raw. You drink the milk of other mammals. You add chemicals to your food that cause pain in your mouth, and you call this enjoyable." "Spicy food," Minu said. "Yes, it is very good." "It sounds like poison," said. "It is not poison, it is delicious." They made a sound that Minu could not understand. Their translator devices buzzed and finally words came out. "We are concerned. Senses are very strong. Strong smells cause us great discomfort." "I am sure it will be fine," Minu said. "It is just kimchi." Nobody knew what kimchi was. The word meant nothing to them. But something about the way Minu said it made the room feel tense. Captain stood up from his table. "Human Minu," he said carefully. "Perhaps it would be better if you ate that food in your private quarters. The dining hall is a shared space. We must think about the comfort of all crew members." Minu hesitated. He looked at the container in his hands. He had waited 12 days. He was hungry. The dining hall was the proper place to eat. He did not want to hide in his room like his food was something shameful. "I will be quick," he said. "I promise, just a small meal you will barely notice." Did not look convinced. His antennae pressed flat against his head, but he did not give a direct order. He simply stood there watching. Minu placed the container on the table in front of him. The metal gleamed under the lights. 3 seals, 3 small locks between him and the taste of home. His fingers touched the first seal. His wings snapped open. They leaned back in their seats. Antennae were completely straight now, pointing at the container like weapons ready to fire. Minu pressed the release. Click. The first seal opened. A tiny hiss of air escaped. It was nothing really, just a whisper. But in that whisper was a hint of something, a ghost of a smell, a promise of what was to come. Made a small sound in her throat. What was that? "Nothing yet," Minu said. "The food is still sealed, 2 more locks." "Perhaps," said his voice very tight, "you should stop." Minu looked up at the captain. He saw fear in those dark blue eyes, real fear. It confused him. It was just food, just cabbage and spices and garlic. Just something his mother had made with her own hands. "It is only kimchi," Minu said again. He pressed the second seal. Click. This time the smell was stronger. It rose from the container like steam from hot water, sharp, sour, alive with the complex chemistry of fermentation. To Minu it smelled wonderful. It smelled like his mother's kitchen. It smelled like Sunday dinners and family gatherings and home. To the aliens in the room, it smelled like something else entirely. Made a choking sound. His silver face went pale. "By the ancient stars," he whispered, "what is happening?" They began to shake. Their soft bodies rippled like water in a storm. Minyu's fingers found the third seal. He did not notice how quiet the room had become. He did not see the way every alien in the dining hall had stopped moving. He was thinking about his mother. He was thinking about home. He was thinking about how good this meal was going to taste after 12 days of bland ship food. He pressed the release. Click. The lid came off. For one beautiful moment, Minyu just breathed in. The smell of his mother's kimchi filled his nose and wrapped around him like a warm blanket. Fermented cabbage, garlic, ginger, chili flakes, fish sauce, all of it mixed together into something perfect, something alive, something that had been growing and changing inside that sealed container, waiting for this moment. To Minyu, it was the smell of love. To everyone else in the room, it was the smell of death. The reaction was instant. The three screamed, not small screams, not polite sounds of surprise. These were screams of pure terror, high and sharp and desperate. Their soft bodies twisted and stretched as they tried to escape. They climbed over each other, over tables, over chairs. One of them hit the floor and bounced. Another crashed into the wall. The third made it to the door first and slammed into it so hard that the metal rang like a bell. The door opened, and they poured out into the corridor, still screaming. Was next. Her wings exploded open and began to beat so fast they became a blur. She lifted off her chair and shot across the room like a bullet. Her mouth was open but no sound came out. Her eyes were wider than Minyu had ever seen. She hit the doorframe with her shoulder, spun around twice, and then flew down the corridor at maximum speed. The young science officer was frozen in place. His antennae stood straight up, vibrating so fast they made a humming sound. His silver face had turned almost white. His mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Finally, his body remembered how to move, and he ran. He did not go around the tables. He went over them. He jumped from one to another like stepping stones in a river, knocking food and dishes everywhere, until he reached the door and disappeared. Captain moved last. He was a captain after all. He had discipline. He had training. He had years of experience in difficult situations, but none of that had prepared him for this. He took one step backward, then another. His antennae were completely flat now, pressed so hard against his skull that they seemed to have become part of his skin. His eyes were locked on the container in Minyu's hands. His body was shaking. "Human Minyu," he said, and his voice was not calm anymore. His voice was the voice of someone facing something terrible. "What have you done?" Minyu looked up at him with complete confusion. He was holding his chopsticks in one hand. A piece of kimchi hung between the wooden sticks, red and glistening. "I opened my lunch," Minyu said. "That is not lunch," whispered. "That is biological warfare. That is a chemical attack. That is—" He paused, searching for words. "Is that rotting? Is your food rotting?" "It is fermented," Minyu said. "There is a difference." "There is no difference." His voice cracked. "You brought decomposing matter onto my ship. You opened it in a shared space. You are eating bacteria. You are consuming the waste products of microscopic organisms." "It is very healthy," Minyu said weakly. "Good for digestion." Made a sound that might have been a laugh or might have been a cry. Then he turned and ran. The captain of the Endless Horizon, a decorated officer with 30 years of service, ran from the dining hall like a child running from a monster. Minyu sat alone in the empty room. The smell of kimchi hung in the air around him, thick and strong and wonderful. Broken dishes lay scattered across the floor. Chairs had been knocked over. A table near the door had been cracked down the middle where had landed on it. Minyu looked at the chaos. He looked at the kimchi. He did not understand what had happened. "It is just cabbage," he said to no one. He ate his lunch anyway. It was delicious. 20 minutes later, the ship's emergency alarm began to sound. Red lights flashed in the corridor. A voice spoke over the communication system, calm and mechanical. "Attention all crew members. Biological contamination detected in Dining Hall 7. All personnel must avoid this area. Atmospheric decontamination protocols are now active. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Minyu finished his last bite of kimchi and sealed the empty container. He wiped his mouth with his hand. He stood up and walked to the door. In the corridor, crew members were running in every direction. Some wore masks over their faces. Others carried equipment he did not recognize. Everyone looked at him as he walked past. Some looked scared. Others looked angry. One saw him and immediately fainted, its soft body collapsing into a puddle on the floor. Minyu found Captain on the bridge. The captain was shouting orders at his crew. Screens showed diagrams of the ship's air systems. Technicians were working frantically at their stations. "Captain," Minyu said. Spun around. When he saw Minyu, his antennae pressed flat again. How are you still alive? How are you walking? How are you not in medical care?" "I finished my lunch," Minyu said. "I wanted to apologize. I did not know the smell would be so strong for you." Stared at him. "Strong? Strong." Human Minyu, our sensors detected over 400 distinct chemical compounds in that container. Sulfur compounds, organic acids, alcohol from bacterial fermentation, nitrogen-based molecules that our computers classified as potentially toxic. Your lunch set off 3 different warning systems. It was my mother's recipe. Your mother tried to kill us. She is a very good cook. Sat down heavily in his captain's chair. He looked tired. He looked defeated. His antennae hung limp on the sides of his head like wet noodles. "Human Minyu," he said slowly. "I have served on this ship for 30 years. I have faced pirates. I have survived meteor storms. I have negotiated with hostile species that wanted to eat me, but I have never been as frightened as I was today in that dining hall." Minyu did not know what to say. He felt guilty now. He had not meant to cause trouble. He had only wanted to eat something that reminded him of home. "I am sorry," he said. "I did not know your senses were so sensitive." "We can smell individual molecules," said. "We can detect chemical changes from 100 meters away. When you opened that container, it was like—" He searched for a comparison that Minyu would understand. "It was like standing next to an explosion, but instead of sound and heat, it was smell. Wave after wave of smell, each one more complex and intense than the last." "I will not eat kimchi in public again," Minyu promised. Nodded slowly. "Yes," he said, "that would be best." But this was not the end of the story. Not even close. The day after the incident, Minyu was called to the medical bay for what Captain described as an urgent health assessment. Minyu did not understand why he needed a health assessment. He felt perfectly fine. His lunch had been excellent, but he went anyway because he wanted to cooperate. The medical bay was large and white and filled with machines that blinked with soft lights. Minyu sat on an examination table while a doctor named ran scans over his body, wore protective gloves and a mask that covered most of her face. She kept her distance from Minyu as much as possible. "Your internal biology is remarkable," said, reading the results on her screen. "Your digestive system contains billions of bacteria, billions, living inside you, and you are healthy." "Everyone has gut bacteria," Minyu said. "Not like this," pointed at the screen. "Your stomach produces acid strong enough to dissolve metal. Your intestines are designed to break down almost any organic matter. You have bacteria in your body that would be classified as biological hazards on most civilized worlds." "Is that bad?" Looked at him with something that might have been wonder or might have been horror. "You ate that fermented food yesterday, the food that caused a ship-wide emergency. You ate all of it, and you feel fine." "It was delicious," Minyu said. "A little spicy, but my mother makes it that way." Shook her head slowly. "Humans are not like other species," she said. "You evolved on a world where danger was everywhere. Your bodies learned to survive things that would kill anyone else." A holographic screen flickered to life on the other side of the room. A human face appeared on it. A woman with short black hair and warm eyes. She was smiling. Hello, Minyu, she said. I am Doctor. I am the ship's specialist for human biology. I work remotely because there are not many humans in this part of space. Minyu felt relief at seeing another human face. Doctor, thank you for talking to me. Please call me. Her smile grew wider. I heard about what happened yesterday. Kimchi in the dining hall, very brave. It was not brave, I was just hungry. Laughed. The sound was warm and familiar. I know, but you have to understand something, Minyu. These aliens have never experienced human food before. Their senses are completely different from ours. What smells normal to us is overwhelming to them. I am starting to understand that. Let me explain, said. She tapped something on her side and images appeared on the screen. Human noses have about 6 million smell receptors. That seems like a lot, right? But it has over 200 million. They can detect single molecules in the air. They can smell emotions. They can smell sickness before symptoms appear. They can literally smell time because old things and new things have different chemical signatures. Minyu thought about this, so when I opened my kimchi, you release thousands of different chemical compounds into the air. Fermentation creates complex smells. Garlic alone has hundreds of different molecules. Your mother's kimchi probably had more chemical complexity than anything these aliens have ever smelled before. I did not know. Of course you did not. How could you? Leaned forward. But here is the interesting part. The ship's computer analyzed the smell from your container. Do you know what it found? 400 chemical compounds, Minyu said. The captain told me. 437, corrected. And many of them are compounds that the Galactic Federation classifies as warning signs. Sulfur compounds indicate decay. Certain acids indicate danger. Alcohol from bacteria indicates contamination. To their senses, your lunch smelled like death itself. But it was not death, it was food. Exactly. Eyes sparkled with amusement. That is what makes humans so fascinating to other species. We take things that seem dangerous and we turn them into food. We ferment milk into cheese. We let grapes rot into wine. We grow mold on bread and call it delicious. We add plants that cause pain to our mouths and call it seasoning. Doctor had been listening quietly. Now she spoke up. It is terrifying, she said. Your species is terrifying. Minyu did not feel terrifying. He felt like a normal person who had made a mistake. So what happens now? He asked. Looked thoughtful. Well, we cannot have you eating human food in shared spaces. The crew would never recover. But we also cannot expect you to eat synthesized paste for the rest of your mission. That would be cruel. I agree, Minyu said quickly. So I have a proposal, tapped her screen again. A diagram of the ship appeared. One small room was highlighted in blue. We create a human food zone, a sealed room with special air filters, triple containment, warning signs on the door. You can eat anything you want in there and the smell will not escape into the rest of the ship. That seems reasonable. Captain has already approved it. Construction begins tomorrow, smiled again. But Minyu, I want you to understand something. What happened yesterday was not your fault. You did nothing wrong. You are just human, and being human is different from being anything else in this galaxy. Later that day, Minyu walked through the corridors of the ship. Crew members stepped aside when they saw him coming. Some pressed themselves against walls. Others turned and walked the other direction. One saw him from far away and immediately floated up to the ceiling to avoid passing near him. Minyu felt lonely. He had wanted to make friends. He had wanted to prove that humans could work well with other species. Instead, he had become the scary alien that everyone avoided. He found in the engine room, working on a power conduit. When she saw him, her wings fluttered nervously. Minyu, she said, you should not be here. I am still recovering from yesterday. I came to apologize, Minyu said. I did not mean to frighten you. Was quiet for a moment. Her wings slowly relaxed. I know, she said finally. I watched the security recording. You looked so confused when everyone ran away. You had no idea what was happening. I really did not. It must be strange, said, to come from a world where everything is dangerous and not realize how different you are from everyone else. Minyu sat down on a storage crate. On Earth, I am just a normal person. I am not strong or fast or special. I am just an engineer who likes his mother's cooking. Your mother's cooking created a ship-wide emergency. Yes, she would be very proud. Made a sound that might have been a laugh. Her wings relaxed completely. You are strange, human Minyu, but perhaps strange is not always bad. Perhaps not. Turned back to her work, but she did not ask Minyu to leave. That felt like progress. Small progress, but progress. The human food zone was completed 3 days later. It was a small room with thick walls and 3 separate air filtration systems. The door had 7 warning signs in 12 different languages. One sign simply showed a picture of a human face with a red circle around it. Minyu looked at the room. It was not much, but it was his. He sat down at the small table, opened his container of leftover rice and began to eat. 3 months passed on the endless horizon. Minyu continued his work as an engineer. He fixed machines. He solved problems. He ate his meals alone in the human food zone. Life settled into a quiet routine. But something had changed on the ship. The story of the kimchi incident had spread. First it traveled to other ships in the fleet. Then it reached space stations. Then it moved to planets and colonies across the sector. The story grew with each telling. Did you hear about the human who ate poison in the dining hall? I heard his food was actually alive, living bacteria. He ate them while they were still moving. My friend said the smell melted the walls. They had to rebuild the entire room. The truth was less dramatic, but still impressive. A human had opened a container of traditional Earth food. The smell had caused 6 aliens to flee in terror. The ship had activated emergency protocols, and the human had calmly finished his meal as if nothing had happened. New crew members who came aboard the endless horizon were warned during their first day. There is a human on this ship, they were told. He seems friendly, he is polite and works hard, but do not be near the dining hall when he eats. Do not ask about his food. Do not look inside his containers. Some crew members treated Minyu with fear. They crossed to the other side of corridors when he walked by. They refused to work in the same room with him. They whispered about him when they thought he could not hear. But others were different. Others were curious. Was the first. The young science officer had been studying humans ever since the incident. He read every document he could find. He watched recordings from Earth. He learned about human history, human culture, human food. The more he learned, the more fascinated he became. One day appeared at the door of the human food zone. Minyu was inside, eating a simple meal of rice and vegetables. Nothing fermented, nothing dangerous, just plain food from the ship's synthesizer. Human Minyu said from the doorway. His antennae twitched nervously. May I speak with you? Minyu looked up in surprise. No one had visited him here before. Of course, please come in. Stepped inside carefully. He left the door open behind him, just in case. He sat down across from Minyu and folded his hands on the table. I have been studying your species, said. I want to understand. Understand what? Everything. His dark blue eyes were bright with curiosity. Why do you eat fermented food? Why do you add pain to your meals? Why do you consume things that would kill other species? Minyu thought about this for a long moment. I do not know why humans started eating these things, he said. Maybe because food was scarce, and we had to find ways to make it last longer. Fermentation preserves food. Maybe because dangerous plants kept away other predators, so we learned to eat them ourselves. Maybe just because we were curious. Curious about poison. Curious about everything, Minyu smiled. Humans are always asking what if we eat this? What if we go there? What if we try something new? Sometimes it kills us, but sometimes it becomes delicious. Leaned forward, his antennae pointed directly at Minyu. I want to try it. Try what? Your food, the fermented cabbage, the kimchi. Minyu stared at him. That is a very bad idea. You remember what happened last time. You ran across 3 tables to escape. I remember. I have had nightmares about it for months. His voice was steady. But I keep thinking about it, the way you ate it, the look on your face. You were so happy. You said it tasted like home. I want to know what that feels like. It will hurt you. I will endure. Minyu was quiet. He understood something important in that moment, was not just curious about food. He was curious about connection. He wanted to understand humans not from documents and recordings but from experience. He wanted to share something. Wait here, Minyu said. He went to his room and came back with a small container. Inside was a tiny amount of kimchi, just a few pieces of fermented cabbage. He had been saving it. His mother's supply would not last forever. This is for you, Minyu said. But we need to be careful. Doctor should be here in case something goes wrong. An hour later, a small group had gathered in the human food zone. Doctor stood in the corner with medical equipment ready. Captain watched from the doorway, his antennae flat with concern. Hovered near the ceiling, her wings buzzing softly. Several other crew members had heard what was happening and come to watch. Sat at the table across from Minyu. Between them sat the open container. The smell of kimchi filled the small room. Antennae were trembling, but he did not run. You do not have to do this, Minyu said. I know, picked up a pair of chopsticks that Minyu had given him. His hands were shaking. But I want to. He reached into the container and lifted out the smallest piece of kimchi. It was barely bigger than his fingernail, red and wet and glistening. Everyone in the room held their breath. Put the kimchi in his mouth. For a moment nothing happened. Just sat there, the tiny piece of fermented cabbage sitting on his tongue. His eyes were wide. His antennae stood completely straight. Then his face changed. His silver skin went pale, then flushed with color. His antennae began to vibrate so fast they hummed. His eyes filled with tears. His mouth opened, and a sound came out that was half scream and half gasp. It burns, he said. It burns and it stings and it is sour and salty and there is something sharp and something sweet and I can taste the bacteria. I can actually taste them. They are still alive. They are dancing on my tongue. This is the most horrible thing I have ever experienced in my entire life. Doctor stepped forward with her medical equipment, but held up a hand to stop her. Wait, he said. His voice was strange. His antennae slowly lowered. The color in his face settled into something almost peaceful. Wait, there is something else, under all of that, something. What? Minyu asked. Something good. Looked at Minyu with wonder in his eyes. How is that possible? How can something so terrible also be so good? I do not know, Minyu said honestly, but that is what makes it special. Sat quietly for a long time. Tears ran down his silver face. His body was still shaking, but slowly, very slowly, a smile appeared on his lips. Could I try another piece? He asked. The room exploded with noise, shouted something about safety protocols, waved her medical scanner in the air, made a sound of pure disbelief, but just sat there, smiling, waiting. Minyu pushed the container across the table. In the weeks that followed, word spread even further. The humans did not just survive on a death world. They had turned survival into an art. They ate things that caused pain and called it pleasure. They consumed living bacteria and called it healthy. They took the most dangerous foods in the galaxy and made them taste like home. And somewhere in the official records of the Galactic Fleet, a new entry was added to the human species file. Warning: do not be present when a human opens their food container. Evacuation recommended. Atmospheric protection advised. Additional note: Some crew members may develop curiosity about human food. Discourage this behavior. The humans find it amusing. Final note: if crew members insist on trying human food despite all warnings, ensure medical personnel are present. Results are unpredictable. Side effects may include pain, tears, temporary sensory overload, and a strange desire to try more. Park Min-yu read this report one evening in his room. He laughed so hard that tears ran down his face. Then he opened his last container of his mother's kimchi and ate it slowly, savoring every bite. Somewhere far away, on a small blue planet called Earth, his mother was probably making a fresh batch right now. He would have to ask her to send more. After all, he had friends to share it with now. For the first time since the incident, he felt at home. Took a step backward, then another. His antennae had completely disappeared, pulled flat against his skull in pure terror. And Min-yu, not understanding any of this, reached for the third and final seal. He decided to eat lunch.